Right, so gold prospecting, huh? Sounds like you're ready to maybe trade in the usual routine for a chance to find some real treasure.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, who hasn't dreamt of striking it rich, right?
Exactly.
So today, we're going to take a deep dive into how to get started with gold prospecting. Going from just being curious about gold to actually getting out there and panning for the first time.
Okay.
And we'll be looking at all sorts of places where gold hides, rivers, creeks, streams, even deserts and beaches.
Right.
Yeah, I was surprised to learn that you can actually find gold on beaches.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So before we get into all that, I guess we should start with the basics.
Yeah. So one of the simplest methods for beginners is gold panning.
Okay, gold panning.
It's a really good way to test the waters, literally, to figure out if a certain area is worth spending more time.
So gold panning.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that classic image of a prospector bent over a stream,
Yeah.
swirling a pan full of gravel and hope, right?
Right.
But how do you actually do it well?
Well, the beauty of gold panning is really, it's simple. You're just using the weight of the gold to your advantage. So gold is much denser than sand or gravel. So when you swirl the pan in the right way, the lighter stuff washes away. And if you're lucky, the gold settles at the bottom.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So obviously we need a gold pan. What else do we really need?
Well, you're going to need a good shovel
Ugh.
or a trowel to dig up and collect those samples. And then you need something sturdy to carry it all in like a backpack.
Makes sense. Now, our sources also mentioned some optional tools like a sluice box, metal detectors, even a dredge.
Right.
Are those things that a beginner should worry about?
No, those are really more for experienced prospectors or people who are working on a larger scale.
Okay.
So let's just stick with the basics for now. You know, the pan, the shovel, the backpack.
Got it. So we've got our gear. Now the question is, where do we actually go to start looking? I think I'm most intrigued by the idea of finding gold in rivers and streams.
Yeah.
You know, what's the deal with that?
Rivers are actually a really great place to start. Gold travels through water systems, and because it's so dense, it tends to drop out of the flow in specific areas.
Okay.
Think about it like this.
Mm-hmm.
When a river bends, the inside of that curve has slower moving water.
Okay.
So heavier particles, like gold, have a chance to settle there.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I noticed our source specifically mentioned bends in the river, you know, places with boulders or logs creating those slower pockets, and even sandbars as like potential hotspots.
Yeah.
It's like a real-life treasure map.
Exactly. And there are often visual clues that hint at gold being present.
Oh, really?
Yeah, keep an eye out for black sands,
Okay.
small pieces of quartz, or even pyrite, which is fool's gold. These are often found alongside real gold deposits.
Oh, wow. So it's like nature's giving us little hints, you know, little winks and nudges saying, hey, look over here.
Exactly. But before you get too carried away in the excitement, we do have to talk about the legal side of things.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Prospecting on private land is usually a no-go, and even on public lands, there might be restrictions on where you can and cannot prospect.
That's a great point. It's always better to be safe and respectful of the land and the rules, you know. Speaking of different environments, deserts seem like an unlikely place to find gold. How does gold even end up in the middle of a dry, arid landscape?
Well, it might seem counterintuitive, but deserts weren't always deserts. Over really, really long periods, ancient rivers and flash floods would carry gold from the mountains and deposit it in what are now dry washes and valleys.
Oh, it's like tracing the ghosts of ancient waterways, huh? Our source suggested looking for depressions, bedrock fissures, and even those dry washes you mentioned. Essentially, anywhere water might have flowed or pooled in the past. Our source also had a really practical tip for desert prospecting:
Oh, yeah.
reusing water for panning. Seems like a smart move in a dry environment.
Absolutely. Conserving water is so important, especially in the desert.
Yeah.
It's a great habit to develop as a prospector, no matter where you're searching.
All right, so we've talked about rivers and deserts. Now, this next one really surprised me. Beaches.
Beaches, yeah.
Is it really possible to find gold on the beach? I mean, it seems almost too good to be true.
You know, it might seem surprising, but beach prospecting can be really rewarding,
Wow.
especially near areas where rivers or streams empty into the ocean.
Okay.
Remember how we were talking about how gold is heavier than other materials?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that applies here too. So as that river water slows down and mixes with the ocean, it deposits its heavier load. And sometimes that includes gold.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And they even mentioned looking for black sand as a potential clue, just like in rivers.
Exactly. Black sand is made up of heavier minerals, and it can often indicate that there are other heavy minerals around too, including gold.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a little visual signal saying, hey, there might be something interesting here.
Who knew the beach could hold so much potential, right?
It's all about knowing where to look and what to look for. And that's what's so cool about gold prospecting. It combines a bit of science, a bit of observation, and a whole lot of adventure.
It's like being a detective,
Yeah.
piecing together those clues to find that hidden treasure.
Right?
Yeah.
Once you understand how gold behaves, you start to see those potential hotspots everywhere.
Exactly. It's like the world is suddenly full of possibilities.
Nope.
Okay, so we've got the tools, we know some good spots, and we understand that gold and water flow are kind of the keys to this whole thing.
Yeah.
What else does a beginner need to know before they actually go out and try it for themselves?
One thing I always tell people is be patient.
Okay.
Gold prospecting isn't always about instant gratification.
Right.
It's really about enjoying the process, the challenge, the thrill of the hunt.
That's a great point. It's not like you're going to find a nugget on your first try.
Right. It takes time to develop the skills and the eye for spotting those signs. And even experienced prospectors, they have days where they come up empty-handed.
Oh, wow.
But that's part of what makes it so exciting.
Right, it's like a puzzle, a
Mhm.
treasure hunt where the reward isn't always guaranteed, but the journey itself is kind of the enriching part.
Exactly.
So can you walk us through the actual experience of gold panning? Like, what are the steps?
Of course. So you found your spot. You've gathered some material with your shovel. You carefully fill your pan about 2/3 full. Then you submerge the pan in the water. Make sure everything gets nice and wet. And now comes the fun part, the swirling. You gently shake and swirl the pan in a circular motion, and that allows those lighter materials to wash over the edge.
Okay, so it's like a dance,
Yeah.
between keeping the gold in and letting everything else go.
Exactly. This is where practice really comes in. It takes some finesse to get the right motion and pressure. As you're swirling, you're looking for those heavier materials sinking to the bottom. The black sands, the pyrite, hopefully some flecks of gold.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
And what happens when you think you've swirled enough?
Yeah.
How do you separate the gold from everything else that's left?
So once you've gotten rid of most of the lighter stuff, you can start tilting the pan carefully and use small amounts of water to wash away the rest.
Where?
You want to do this really slowly and gently so you don't lose any of those heavier particles.
So patience, precision, and maybe a little bit of luck.
Absolutely. And it's such an amazing feeling, when you see those first tiny flecks of gold just like glimmering at the bottom of your pan.
Wow, I bet it's exciting.
It really is. It's like finding a tiny treasure that's been hidden for centuries.
Wow. And I bet that makes all the effort worthwhile.
Oh, yeah. But it's also about connecting with nature, the peacefulness of being outdoors, the satisfaction of mastering a skill. And, let's not forget the camaraderie. A lot of prospectors, they form really strong bonds and friendships over their shared passion.
It sounds like a hobby that has something for everyone, Adventure, relaxation, connection, and even a chance to learn about geology and history. It's more than just finding gold. It's the whole experience.
Yeah, exactly. And for someone who's just starting out, it might seem a bit intimidating, the learning curve.
Sure.
But there are so many resources to help people learn.
That's right. We've got books, websites, online forums, and even local prospecting clubs, where you can actually meet up with other prospectors and learn from people who really know their stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be afraid to reach out to those communities. Most prospectors, they're happy to share their knowledge and passion with new people.
What happens after you find the gold?
Yeah.
Do people typically sell it? Or is it more about, the sentimental value?
It really depends on the person. Some people do sell their finds, especially if they find, a decent amount.
Makes sense.
But for a lot of people, the value is really in the experience.
Right.
The memories, the personal connection to the gold. They might keep it as souvenirs,
Yeah.
Do your research. Learn about the geology of your area.
Okay.
Familiarize yourself with the rules, best practices, and most importantly, connect with other prospectors. The gold prospecting community is very welcoming, and there's so much knowledge out there just waiting to be shared.
Knowledge is power. Right, especially when you're trying to find treasure. Well, folks, there you have it, our crash course in gold prospecting for beginners. From the tools and locations to the thrill of the find. We hope you're feeling inspired to, grab a pan and get out there. Remember, it's not just about the gold, it's about the journey, the connection with nature, and the joy of discovery. Happy prospecting!